Welcome back. We're going to continue working on our base color for our cartoon character head. I've made those corrections back in Maya as far as some of the overlapping UVs and stretching that I had, and came back in here and cleaned up some of the painting where I had some of those stretching around the ears and eyes. So it's all looking pretty uniform now. It's a good time to save your scene. You just want to do a save scene as. Go ahead and save it out. It'll be a .mud file. And if you come out into your directory, I opened mine. It's wherever you opened it up at. So you were probably in your Maya folder, your scene for Maya, and in there you should see your Mudbox file that you just created. And also another directory. This is going to be your paint files. This is what you're going to bring back into Maya and attach to a shader. Okay, so it's going to be that material base color probably. And just bringing this back up. Let's go ahead and create another layer over here. So I'm just going to click on this, and we're going to call this Detail 1, leaving everything as is, 1K, target, and diffuse. Clicking OK. I'm going to come back out to my image browser, and I'm going to select another color. I think I'm going to go with this sort of kind of pinkish one. I've got a couple different sizes here. Let's take a look at them. I think I'm going to go with this one. It's got a little bit finer detail to it. It's not as blotchy. I'm going to set that as my stencil. Come back to 3D. And I've got my projection brush selected here. If I click on it, I'll see I'm at 100% strength, which I don't want. I want to bring that down to about 50%. Okay, I'm going to zoom in quite a bit here, just create a little bit finer detail on top of the character. Widen my brush up a little bit and start painting on here. Okay, and I'm going to undo that. I think I'm going to knock this down even more. Try about 20%. And if I zoom in, I'm going to get a little bit finer detail. So I'm going to start painting now. And you always have the option of going back and kind of blending things. Bring that brush size up a little. And I can probably turn symmetry on and do that last little bit right there, just to kind of cover the sides a little bit quicker. And you want to try to paint flat to the surface. Otherwise, I'll show you an example of trying to paint underneath an area and not rotating it. You will often end up with this sort of thing right here. This is stretching. So you're kind of projecting the 2D flat surface across a 3D plane, and it's stretching underneath here. The pixels are going across. So you want to avoid doing things like that. You can just lower your brush size down a little, and then as you start to approach a curve, just go ahead and rotate your object around. Start filling that in. Painting flat to the surface. Again, if you want to rotate your image around, that's just holding down the S key using the mouse buttons, and you can move, scale, and rotate. I'll come back here and kind of correct those areas just because we're seeing a pattern. Right. Back of the ears. The ears is always kind of a good place where you might get some stretching. Try to paint on it so it's outside here and not overlapping the character. If you do that, you're liable to kind of overshoot some areas and then come back here and discover you know, you've got some areas that were stretching along the back here. So I always try to aim my ears so they're not overlapping the object, and paint it like that. Let's fix that area there. Scale the brush size down, come in here. And underneath, a little bit of stretching under here. Just filling that in. Okay. Let's go down here and check the neck. Okay, just checking over here now, around the eyes. This is where you can get a little bit of stretching, is around the chin and lips. Usually take the brush size down and kind of come in here. Paint a little bit more carefully. Same thing around the nose. Make sure you come in up under there, paint. Still see another little area right there that needs correcting on the UVs right around the nose here. It's probably another little crease that I forgot. Okay. All right, so just make sure you got coverage on everything. And if you see some more problems back with the UVs, take it back into Maya and correct those. So don't really need to worry too much about the inside of the eye sockets here. They're not going to be seen. The edges are though, so I'm going to make sure those are covered. Again, I've got another little fold right here that's a little area that I missed right here. I'll have to correct that. Same thing with this edge right here. Got some stretching. Showing up a little bit more now that I have a lighter color going down on the character. All right. So about all that's left to do now is just make a couple of little corrections with the UVs back in Maya. And I would come back in here, turn symmetry off, and just fix some obvious little patterns right here. Do that really quickly. I like to widen my brush up a little bit so it's softer. Come to the back side and do the same thing. Actually missed a whole area right there. Just paint that. Okay. Any other little kind of obvious areas that kind of popping out, go ahead and clean those up. Okay. Turn that off. So we can I got a little area right there that I want to paint that. here. Some little areas that I missed. It's kind of looking patchy. Okay. So I've got that covered now. Just making sure there's not any stretching, anything really obvious. A little bit of patchiness right here. Just going to clean that up. Okay. So now that I have these two here, I can kind of adjust. I can adjust color. I can also adjust the opacity. So if I want to take this down to something like 60%, you can see that it is allowing kind of the darker tone underneath to come through. Or I can bump it back up. I think I might try about 80%. I can also adjust the color on here. Just right mouse click on the layer. Go down to the bottom here, adjust color. It's going to bring up a window. And you've got the hue, so you can kind of change things around here. Green character, blue. Change mine a little bit. You can kind of add a little bit more saturation if you want. And here's the value. Kind of see some of those changes happening. You can also use curves. If you're a little bit more comfortable working with curves, you can do that. You can also choose the channel that you want to work with. RGB is a default. You can also just specify red, green, blue, or just adjust the value or the saturation separately. All right. Just hitting OK on that. So kind of happy with that now. So what I'm going to do is collapse these two layers right here. The more layers you have here, the more memory it's going to use up on the graphics card. So just to keep things running more efficiently, once I'm kind of happy with something, I'm going to go ahead and merge the visible. So they were both on, so they've merged down into the one now. If I were painting a highly detailed character, I'd probably save things off and keep everything separate until the very end, and try to work that way and not merge things so quickly. With a cartoon character, I can kind of make decisions a little bit more quickly here. This wasn't a lot of elaborate painting, so I didn't worry too much about collapsing that right there. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer and just call this Detail Eyes. Hit OK. And with this one, we're going to actually just paint with it instead of using projection like we've been doing. We're going to just select a paint color with the paint brush and click on that. I've got this default here, green, from something else I must have been doing. You probably got white here. If you click on it, you're going to get a color chooser. And I'm going to start off by sampling the skin color to get me in the range that I want. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of drag it up here and make it a little bit darker around his eyes. And maybe just a little bit less saturated. Again, I can always adjust that a little bit later after I painted it. And instead of just coming in here and painting directly on, what I'm going to do, this would just be painting. Actually, I already have a stamp on here. Let me turn everything off. Okay, so this would just be painting straight on like that. Okay, so you can see it's flat. Now you're really seeing kind of the issues right there with the UVs. But this is just painting very flat, smooth, kind of airbrush sort of look. And I don't really want that. I want something a little bit more broken up. So I'm going to come into my stamp tab here in this tray. And a lot of these work just fine. I'm going to just go ahead and click on the first one. It's just going to break up the brush for me. And I'm going to bring the opacity down. And with this, I'm going to start off with symmetry on, just to kind of cover the area. And I'm going to come in here, and you can see with this how it's kind of breaking up the surface. And that's kind of what I'm after here. Just something that looks a little more organic. And if I kind of overshoot things, which I think I did here a little bit, I can always come back with the paint erase tool and kind of erase some things. I took it down too far on the cheeks or onto the nose. Don't want it there. Take it back. Like that. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and darken it down a little bit more. And take down the strength. Make my brush a little bit smaller and just kind of come in here onto the eyelid. Paint that a little bit darker. And if this feels a little too dark when I'm done with it, I'll just go back and kind of brighten it up, adjusting it overall. And kind of hitting this eyelid around in here a little bit. All right. Just go ahead and paint on the inside here. It's not really going to show up. And then coming under here and getting the eyelid itself. And I might even make that just a little bit darker. As I make it darker, I'm kind of pushing it towards a little bit more saturation, just so it doesn't go kind of a dull color. So hitting that again. Okay. And I might just take the opacity or the strength down a little bit more. And just come in here a little bit on top of the eyelid. Okay. So come back out here and take a look at it. This is feeling a little strong. I'm going to kind of back off on it. And I'm doing the same thing with the erase paintbrush here. I'm using one of the stamps to break it up. So you might try this stamp right here. And increasing the size of my brush and taking the strength way down. Just kind of coming in here and lightly hitting some areas. I think I just kind of got it a little too dark. Okay. All right, so we've got some detail around the eyes now, and let's go ahead and add some on the cheeks. Create a new layer. Detail cheeks. I think I spelled that right. Okay, I'll go back to my paintbrush, and again I'm going to use the eyedropper. Start off with a color on the cheek, and I'm going to push it more kind of into the red area. Saturate it a little bit more. Something about like that. Okay, and I'm going to take this down quite a bit. Just going to hit this area in here. You can see it's very subtle. I'm going to just kind of let it build up a little bit. See that on both sides. I'm going to kind of run it up in and kind of across the bridge of his nose maybe. Maybe even down on his nose a little bit. And here. Kind of hit the chin. All right. So that's probably about all I'm going to do for that. And the lips. We're going to hit the lips with another color. Let's go ahead and create a new layer. Okay, take the brush size down, and I'm probably going to darken this a little bit and take a little saturation out. And come in here and just hit that. Probably bring this up just a little bit, maybe darken it. Okay, kind of hitting a little bit more on the inside of the lips there. And a little bit of long hair just to kind of define that a little better. All right. So it's kind of subtle. And I think what I might do, since I've got a little bit darker color right here, I might go ahead and bring up the size of my paintbrush and come back onto the cheeks here. Just kind of hit it with another color that's a little bit darker, just to add a little bit of layering on there. Okay, and if it's starting to look a little too much, a little too rosy, we can back off. Maybe just bring it down to 80. Okay. And I think even the ears could probably stand to have a little bit of color on them. So I'm going to go ahead and use the layer that I have set up for the cheeks, for the ears. And just kind of come in here, paint a little bit. And I had symmetry on, so I got both sides. All right. Just hit his nose a little bit more. And just maybe slightly hit the top of his brows. All right. Okay. All right, so if you want to add any more detail in there, any kind of freckling, that type of stuff, go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go ahead and collapse all of these now. Just going to merge visible, so we're down to just our base color. Again, all right. And if I hit save, that's going to update that file out there on the desktop in the folder. Okay. Just kind of coming in here and checking. So that all looks good. Pretty happy with that for a cartoon character. I think that's fine. It's not a ton of detail. All right, so in the next lesson, I'm going to go back into Maya and we're going to bring that eyeball over and start painting on that.